PK52, the Saturday morning meeting. So my tagline for the last couple of years is the bigger you make it, the bigger it is. For people that haven't heard the explanation, let me give you the really skinny explanation. The bigger you make it, the bigger it is. So when I look at this and I think about Toyota, the manufacturer, they're dealing with an ammonia engine that runs on ammonia. They're dealing with hydrogen engines that can be an internal combustion engine, and they've got one that powers the Mirai. So hydrogen has exhaust emission of just water vapor. They're also now starting to look at a solid state battery that goes hundreds of miles further than any other electric car has ever gone before. So the innovation with the manufacturer is there. They're doing the heavy lifting on what's next. Can I compel a buyer to look at the brand Toyota? They spend millions of dollars on advertising. The dealership that sells Toyota spends advertising, is community involved, trying to bring people to the brand either for the first time or retain them to the brand. So it's just the same at Nissan. Maybe they don't have as much innovation going on, but some of the other brands, I mean, even in the motorcycle world, they're experimenting with hydrogen. Big truck semis are experimenting with different sources of energy to be able to transport our goods around the nation. So it's not just Toyota. There's other manufacturers and other entities that are trying to take this transportation to the next level. So that leaves the missing link. There are people in the retail space, no matter what they're selling, that don't sell stuff. They've got a commodity, but they're not selling the commodity, they're selling an experience. I guess we can go into the power sports industry. You know, why would you buy a boat or a wave runner, jet ski, or some watercraft if you've really never been on a lake before? You had some friends, they had a boat, you really enjoyed it, you've been thinking about it for a while, and you go buy a boat. I mean, they don't make you take a boat license. You know, you get a boat, you get a 24 pack of beer, you throw it in the cooler, and you go have a good time on the lake. And it's interesting, you know, how did they come to that determination that they wanted to buy a boat? Many people, after buying a watercraft, realize I'm only using this a couple of times a year. I got to pay for storage. I got to pay my payment. But something compelled them to get into a different genre. And again, people are looking for ways to be able to enjoy their life. So as a former boat owner, there were great times at having a boat. Really cool when you bring people out and you get to take them out and experience the water and have a lot of fun and everything. But the back part of that, the maintenance, making sure the boat's in a safe place, just the care overall, that's an issue. And, I don't think people factor that in. Buying a car. People say if you buy a toy, a motorcycle, a side-by-side, again, a boat, then they don't have to have that. Well, my statement is if you buy a car, you don't have to buy a new car. You can buy a 100,000 mile Corolla after being looked at by a certified Toyota technician, and that vehicle may be the best vehicle you've ever owned before. So you didn't have to buy a new car. So I say when somebody buys something new or nearly new, then that's also a very interesting decision. So I want to tell you a story. And forgive me for doing this real world stuff. So I've met a girl that's going to get into sales for her very first time. Totally impressed with her ideology. So we had a meeting last night. I have a good friend that is going down to a deal called the Double R Fest. It's down in COTA, the Circuit of Americas, down in Austin, and getting to ride a motorcycle on that Formula One track for a couple of days with the number one champion superbike winner for last year and probably this year. And it's going to be like the first day is going to be 1-on-6, which is going to be unbelievable to get that kind of instruction and have that kind of joy if you're in the motorcycle world. Well, we're getting together with a group of people, and I made an announcement that Tony was going to get a chance and opportunity to do this. And she shows up researching COTA, researching what super bikes were, and then Toprak researching him, and he's a tremendous rider out of Turkey, and shows up and can have a part of the conversation. And so I'm looking at, how do I build my dynasty? If I work in any kind of retail space where we're trying to move our product to a consumer, Doesn't matter what it is. It has no bearing on what it is, none at all. But there are some people that really charge up the ladder in this space and have a great career, but I don't think they go into work every day to sell stuff. I don't. I don't think they worry about selling stuff. Now, if you're on the lower end of the spectrum and you're struggling in a sales world, then you think about, I need to sell something today. I'm behind. I had a terrible month last, and so now you're trying to sell something instead of building a relationship with a consumer and building your base. So it's a completely different mindset. The internet is out there. I never have understood why somebody would like to talk to a total stranger and try to convince them that you are the person to take care of them when they've never met you before. There is a intro of untrust when you go in to buy something because it's a world on its own, and the people from the outside that are the buyers are really not inside this whole track. There's a flaily arm guy, the big giant grape ape, balloons everywhere, and everybody's giving you the greatest deal in the world. And obviously that can't be true because everybody can't give the greatest deal. So I can see the apprehension of the buyer. So do they research on Google and Yelp, how many stars that your outlet has? Are you 4-star? Are you 5-star? Are you 1-star? What are the reviews? What have people said about you? That's becoming a bigger and bigger thing before somebody actually goes to a brick and mortar. They're starting to find out, how have you treated other people? And that's out there. And understanding that the people that are the most upset with the way they were treating are the ones that are the first people to leave an overall synopsis of how they were treated. And the ones that came in there and bought something and it went smooth and everything was good really don't feel compelled to tell anybody it was great, because maybe it wasn't great. Maybe it was exactly what they expected, exactly what they felt like they deserved, and everything was good. Nothing said, move forward. So now we've got an unbalance online of people that are very irritated, and they could have actually been irritated at the last place they went. And they brought that irritation forward, and that's out there. And so you have to control that. If you're in the selling space, you need to make sure that people understand that if I did a good job for you, other people look at this, please tell people. There's nothing wrong with asking for them to tell about their experience. So that's out there. But again, let's go back to what I said before. Some people show up and are in a panic mode, even though they don't know it. I've got to sell something today. I got to have a good month. I had a bad month last year, said it again. And then other people show up and they're organized and they've done their prep work. I've got Mr. Johnson coming in, and I don't know who he is, but we've either talked on the phone or we've digitally given information back and forth. He's asked me for information. I've supplied everything I possibly can. And then I'm hoping that they're going to come in and we can complete the transaction. That's my hopefulness. But in the interim time, I realize this guy lives in ABC town, in ABC state. And so why would I not go onto social media and find out if this man, woman, person is there? So I find out, and I think I've done this like a couple of years ago. I did a sale one time where I did some research, and I found out the person coming in was a principal at an elementary school in our market area. And so, do I know for a fact that this is the person that's coming in? No, but the names matched up, the city matched up. And so, when he showed up, I said, can I ask you a personal question? Are you the principal at ABC Elementary? He said, yeah. I said, oh, man. And I just said, wow. So we give our kids to you, and you change their lives. I said that you're giving me an opportunity to even do business with you right now. Whether you purchase something from me or not, just being able to try to work for you today is an honor. So whatever you want, let's do it your way, because absolutely you deserve that. This was one of the easiest times that I ever sold a car. He immediately said, well, I appreciate that. He didn't say, were you creeping me and were you stalking me? If I tell somebody who I am and the next thing I know, they go, oh, I watched a couple of your Saturday morning meetings. I'm not sitting there going like, oh, you're stalking me. I mean, I put that out there. It's available. So I think you should do videos. I think you should create an ambiance when you send out to somebody so they know who you are. So there's two categories, let's call them two buckets. I'm going to work to have a job. Last week, Ryan Sodakoff was sitting right here with me, and he completely spelled out what a job is, just above broke. I get to a certain level in the month, I've made the money I need to make, and all of a sudden I start to slow down. There's no panic anymore because I've been panic driven. And I know people will argue, oh, Casey, I'm never panicked. I get it. It's not an actual panic where you're sitting there in the morning, you're sweating before you drive to work, but you're sitting there going, I've got a number I have to hit. I've got bills I've got to pay. If I don't maintain this pace, then I get behind. My credit cards start stacking up and I get in a very bad financial situation. So whether it's an external panic attack or you're just sitting there going like, no, I'm in a hole here and I've got to do something about it. Or you walk into a situation and you realize that people are going to buy your product. Doesn't matter where they buy it, they're going to buy your product. Your product's for sale. It's been advertised highly by the manufacturer and for where you work. And you need to be the destination. So you do the 7 business cards I talk about all the time. You go up and meet people and you start a conversation. I don't have a problem walking up to somebody that's driving a domestic truck and just saying, let me ask you a question. Tell me a little bit about your Chevrolet. And I'll tell you why I'm asking. I've been in the automotive business for a very long time, and I've never figured out why somebody is so brand loyal. So what is it about, the guy pulls up his sleeve and he's got the bow tie. And that's incredible right there. So they love the product so much, they paid for it. Nobody gave them a truck or a car, but now they've got the Chevrolet bow tie, on their bicep. And I think that's really, really interesting. So where did that loyalty come from? Obviously, the manufacturers are in racing, and there's a lot of racing fans, and you pull for the brand. And so that could be the part of the passion. Maybe their granddad and their dad always drove Chevy trucks, and when they grew up, all they talked about, well, we're Chevy family. And so they just carried that lineage forward. But if you can figure out where the passion lies in the automotive space and the power sport space or anything else, then you're way ahead of the game because you're no longer selling a commodity. You're selling a client for life, taking care of them and building your base. Let me end with this sports analogy. College football is coming. A lot of people are pretty upset with the way they've managed college football over the last couple of years. I'm not upset because there is nothing I can do about it. They've made decisions. Those decisions are in place. They're still going to play the game. But we're talking about a group of people that are 19 to maybe 22 years old. Well, with college today, they could be 45 still playing college ball. And some of you know what I'm talking about. But it's a young group of people. Take yourself back to when you were 19. Now, some of you were extremely mature and you were freaking hammering it and everything. And I was trying to be an athlete, wanted to be a pro athlete and everything. And I got to be honest with you, I was more shallow than a wading pool, I didn't have a focus on where I was going in life and everything. I was going to be a major league baseball player. And so it was interesting. That's the group of people that do this multi-billion-dollar college football season. And it's giant. And so I've seen people that will hate somebody because they cheer on the wrong team. And I'm going like, really? So you hate this guy because he's a Longhorn fan and you're an Ohio State Buckeye. And I got somebody watching right now going, that's damn right, Casey, we hate the Longhorns. I go, whoa, easy there. So what about the character of the players for a football team? They grew up, they're really good people, they're great students. You hate them? And then I don't even want to talk about the pros. I mean, people will get in fist fights, if somebody's wearing the wrong jacket. So let's analyze this as we close today. What drives that passion? The Pittsburgh Steelers are not going to send you a check. They're not going to pay you an annual salary. If you go to the stadium, and I've not been to that stadium, but if you go to the stadium, a beer might be $22. So they're not out there, loving their fans and saying, we'll do everything for you. We'll take care of you. We'll make sure you have a place to live. We'll make sure you have transportation. They're out there charging the maximum amount of money on everything they do. And then somebody goes and buys a jersey with somebody else's name on the back of it. What in the world drives that passion? What drives that passion? And you can do other analogies. Maybe the football analogy wasn't your analogy and everything, but you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to ask you this one thing. Why don't you drive that passion? PK52, the Saturday morning meeting.